Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Half Brothers podcast. My name is Jacob,
My name is Glenn.
and we are half brothers, as the podcast is named. If you're new here, which you are, be sure to subscribe. We'd appreciate it, and then be sure to drop a like, do all that fun stuff, share it with your friends. We're trying to blow this up, sort of. Yeah. So, what do we want to talk about today?
And you can also see our Venmo right here on the screen. I'm at Glenny T. Shin. You are
Your mom's house.
amazing. Venmo us, help us out. But yeah, so Jacob and I, we've been wanting to do this for a while. I actually live in Brooklyn, New York. Jacob is holding down here in Akron, Ohio,
Akron.
our hometown. So this first episode, we're lucky enough to be in person, and then the other episodes we'll do remote. So I'll be live from New York, and he'll be
live from Akron.
Akron. Yeah, a lot of people do say Akron.
Yeah, no,
and it's Akron.
Or AK Rowdy.
AK Rowdy's cool,
too.
but Akron is just insulting.
Why?
I think because my friends that do it, they know it's Akron.
Yeah,
but
I know it's Akron.
Yeah,
it's just because you don't live here anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Anyway, what are you hoping to get out of the podcast? Like, what is your dreams, your aspirations? What are we doing this for?
So I feel like there's not enough white guys doing podcasts. There's not enough straight white dudes doing podcasts.
Not wrong.
That's what I hear all the time. They're like, we want more straight white dudes doing podcasts. So I really saw that need in the industry, and I felt like, hey,
we can fill that void.
We can fill that void because it's really lacking.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, everyone has a podcast. I live in Brooklyn, and if you don't have a podcast in New York, then you don't really exist.
You're not really a real New Yorker. If you
Exactly.
Don't have a podcast.
So, in order for me to be a real New Yorker and and to be a real comedian in New York, I have to have a podcast presence. No, but in all actuality, we've been wanting to do this for a while. Jacob, I think this is going to be awesome to just be able to talk about our life experiences. I'm 28, going to be 29 this year. You're 26.
Yep.
And I feel like our 20s are a complicated time. I know there's a ton of podcasts out there that you could listen to, obviously. But yeah, I just think that our relationship is a unique story. We have a lot to offer, but also even just like some of our experiences could be encouraging, to men or women in their 20s, 30s, just trying to find purpose in life. If you have faith, walking with God, talking about the struggles of that early on. And yeah, so I just want to have fun, be able to catch up with my brother every week, selfishly, but also just be encouraging to others. But yeah, man, what do you want to get out of this pod, Jacob?
Mine's a little different. Mine is significantly. That would be a bad way to word it. My main objective is to spread the gospel. We've talked about this. I want to do more. I wear these Jesus shirts all the time, and I've started to grow in my faith and really got the ink on the arm. I've started to grow in my faith a lot over the last couple of years, and I just really want to do my part. As we talk about purpose and finding purpose and everything, this idea that I've kind of been able to find hope in and to like really latch onto is our purpose is to know him and to make him known. And I just want to live my purpose more. So we're not always going to talk about faith. It's not always going to be, like a gospel-esque episode every single time. But it is something that is very near and dear to both of our hearts, and it is going to be talked about on many episodes, probably almost all of them. But it's not super centered around like faith-based things. It's going to be something we talk about. It's definitely something that I would love to share more of, and kind of just share. Like Glenn was saying, we've both had our own experiences. We have a very unique story, and I know there's people out there that can probably relate to my story, his story, and our story together. And knowing that we are rooted in this faith, we have this thing that helps ground us, and I think can really help a lot of people. And that's the main objective, is to know him and to make him known.
For sure, man. Amen. And just to piggyback off that, another reason actually just came to mind of why I'm excited to do this is because we also want to have a lot of guests on the podcast. One thing I see in podcasts that I love is like interviewing people with different perspectives, different religions, different viewpoints, different thoughts. And so, thankfully, like we know a lot of people between the two of us, and from different backgrounds of faith, different backgrounds of the world, just like all this stuff. And I also wanted to be able to there's just questions I wanted to ask these people, and questions that I think if we see people from different backgrounds, different faiths, even different political spectrums, and we can see civil discourse between those people challenging one another, but also trying to understand one another, I think that can also be really encouraging just for where our culture's at.
Yeah.
Because it's yeah, you don't see a whole lot of civil conversations with people that may or may not disagree. I think it's gotten really extreme in a lot of cases. And so, with that said, yeah, as Jacob said, we're both devout Christians. That is our faith. And so we'd love to have some of our other friends of other faiths on here to kind of challenge each other, talk about, why we believe what we believe, and also why it's relevant. Because, a lot of my friends aren't religious, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this, out of the three listening to the first episode, might not be religious. And so, why is it relevant? Where does it come into our life, and why do we feel so strongly about it? As well as other people, why do they feel so strongly opposed to it?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I just think the conversations we can have with people, and put it out there for people to see, like, oh, wow, it's cool. It's encouraging to see, like, they are so different. They could not be more different, yet they can get along and have a conversation
Yeah.
lovingly. So,
Yeah. I was gonna say I don't know a ton of people of other faiths.
sure.
I know a lot of Catholics, which some people say is not the same as being
There's some
Christian.
differences for sure.
There's some differences, but they still believe in Jesus. I know a lot of people that don't believe in anything at all. Which
Oh,
there's been times in my life where I could understand that mindset, but if I'm speaking open and honest from my heart, like I really don't quite get it. Like I don't get how you think that there's nothing created. And I was talking to my buddies at Bible study this weekend. It's like all the people who claim to not be of faith and to not believe in God, they all say I'm going to hell. Well, how are you going to hell if God
Mhm.
doesn't exist?
right.
Like if there is no heaven, how is there a hell? So that's something. And like, honestly, like the more I think about that, I guess I'll just go ahead and go with this. Like the people that do say that, I feel like they recognize that it is a choice. Like it is not this predetermined thing. Like that, when you were born, God was like, nope, that one's not coming up here with me.
Right.
That one is coming up here with me. Like it is a choice, and I think that everyone recognizes that that's that choice, and they choose to not make that choice, and that's why they say that.
Mm.
It's not because they really think that they're a bad person or they really think that that's what they deserve. It's because they know that they're not following Christ. And being completely honest, like he says, John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. The truth is Christ. And a lot of people like to deny the truth, and they know what that means for them and their salvation, and they just choose to accept it. They'd rather live a life based on the desires of the flesh rather than trying to emulate Christ as much as they can. And another thing we're talking about at Bible study is like there is nobody's ever going to emulate Christ. No one's ever going to live an actual Christ-like life. But that's not what being a Christian is about. Being a Christian is working every day to try to live more of a Christ-like life. Like we're all going to sin. We're all human. None of us are God. There was only one God, and He died on the cross. And none of us are ever going to be able to match the life that He lived.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, with that, like I'm in, one of the reasons I'm in town is because my grandpa just died, 94 years old, lived a wonderful, long life, made a lasting impact on a lot of people. But I'll be speaking at the funeral on Thursday. And I think that, while it's really sad, I love and miss my grandpa, like I have hope that I will be reunited with him one day. And I'm very like confident in that and sure of that. And for people that don't have faith or that don't believe in the afterlife or that believe that this is all here and then we're gone or that it's all by accident, I think like you still have to deal with death. When my grandpa died, someone asked me, my buddy asked me, I was like, hey, my grandpa just died. He was like, oh, I'm so sorry, man. He was like, was it expected? And I thought about what he was saying. Obviously, he's trying to say, oh, he's 94. Of course, he's going to die. But instead of being like, yeah, he was getting old, he said, was it expected? I said, well, actually, everyone's expected to die.
Right. None of us make it out in the space alive.
We don't want to think about that, but we think, oh, when we're old, we'll die. But you can die tomorrow. Like I've lost friends. I think you have too. Like at our age, like in high school, after high school, like even recently, and I just saw them. And then one day they're gone. And so at some point, like we all recognize that we are going to die. And when someone dies, we lose someone that we love, we feel sadness, we feel grief, right? I heard Tim Keller, I believe it's Tim Keller, a pastor, the late pastor in New York City. He once said that grief is a gift from God because grief shows that you had so much love for an individual, and now that love that you want to give to this person, they're no longer here. And so grief is almost love bottled up that you can no longer give to someone in the flesh.
That's really beautiful.
Right. And so, but the reason I bring this up is because when you're talking at a funeral, when you're at a funeral and you see someone's body laying there and there's no life in it, um, you're faced with your own mortality. And then you start to think deeper. And so we're crying over my grandfather. People in my family that don't believe in God are sad. Why are you sad? Where is this emotion coming from? The sadness is coming because you loved him. Why do you love him? Because, he had an impact on my life. He meant something to me. His life meant something. Well, how do you know his life meant something? Because he said it meant something or because you said it meant something.
Yeah.
Like if it's relative, if life is truly all relative and our purpose is made up by ourself, then our purpose can be whatever we want it to be, even if it's harmful to others.
Yeah.
But we know that if I said my purpose in life is to go around and just assault people and, punch them in the face or jump people.
Who
if I said
tell you that you're not.
Exactly. If I said that's my truth, and it's all relative,
Yeah.
then that could be my truth, and you couldn't say that it's wrong. Yeah. But something within all of us says, no, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Why? Where does that come from? It must come from somewhere. So, as I'm preparing to speak at this funeral, I kind of want to I just want to get people to think in my family, who I love very much, like, we're going to die one day. Why do we fear that?
Yeah.
And why do we feel this sadness of my grandpa being gone? Like if it was an accident, then it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He never mattered. I never mattered. And so, but we know that's not true. We know he mattered. We know we all matter. And why is that? And what if we didn't have to be scared of death?
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I think, we already got deep, but I love it. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna get people thinking about faith. We're gonna challenge each other. We're probably gonna say things that come up and just challenge ourselves.
Yeah.
On accident.
I mean, like you saying that Tim Keller thing. Like, what was it again?
It was, you know what? I hope I'm not mixing up Tim Keller with some other thing, but he said something similar to this. But this quote was basically that grief, and maybe he was quoting someone else. Grief is love with nowhere to go. And so it's this love that you have inside for someone that you can no longer give it to.
Yeah.
And you can also grieve if someone's not dead.
Yeah.
Relationships.
Yeah. Which is what I was gonna, get to. Recently, not super recently, not like yesterday, but within a year, went through a breakup, and the grieving process in that has been, peaks and valleys. There's been moments where, I'm not grieving a whole lot and I feel like everything's okay. And then there's been other moments where it seems like I cannot shake the grief. And that's the first time I've ever heard that. And it's why I said it was very beautiful is because, it really resonates with me because, as I'm going through this period of growth and this period of singleness, every time I grieve, I kind of, I don't even entirely know what to do with it. And thinking that oh, you're grieving because you have this love for somebody that you can no longer give to them. Even though they are still here, even though I could text them, I could, show up at their work and do some crazy stuff. There's ways that I could still express that love. I can no longer because they're not accepting of it. And it's very tough. It's very difficult. And anybody out there that may be going through a breakup, I pray for you because they're never easy. It doesn't matter how long you guys were together. It's never a fun experience, whether it's, with a significant other or with, a friend that you just don't happen to talk to anymore. It's never a fun time. It's never an easy time. And, I had thought, we had this very adult split and, this very mature breakup and everything. And, and if that's how it would have been, I feel like things would have the grieving process would have been a lot easier.
Right.
But as time has gone on and more information has been shared, I just realized that wasn't necessarily the case of how it went. It wasn't necessarily the way that I saw things or the way that I was allowing myself to see things. And I think that has caused me the most grief is knowing that I could have paid more attention to certain things, knowing that I could have not turned a blind eye to some things that were clearly showing me the result that was going to come later down the road. Really kind of made that grieving process a little bit tougher, a little bit harder. um so I just encourage anybody out there that's listening, like, if it feels bad to say, if you're being manipulated, you don't have to be okay with it. Like, it doesn't matter, how much you care about that person. It doesn't matter, how long you guys have been together. If you can see the manipulation on the wall, you're allowed to stand up and say something about it. You don't have to be okay with it, and you don't have to continue to let it happen. Um, and that was, something that I was partaking in. I was trying to turn a blind eye because I was like, oh, she loves me. She's not doing this on purpose. And then, come to find out, no, she was doing it on purpose. And like that in itself, like we were talking before this podcast, little behind the scenes, took us probably an hour to be able to get this set up, to figure it out, and we ended up ditching all the microphones and everything, and we're just recording on an iPhone right now.
It's hard to hit start on that iPhone.
It really is, man. But in that process of setting up for an hour, I did some venting, and I just kind of, I don't even remember where I was going with that.
That's okay. I mean, we can talk about it though. We can talk about breakups. Yeah. I mean, breakups are tough, right? And I think fellas out there, I think sometimes fellas, we have trouble processing breakups. We don't know how we're supposed to do it as men.
Yeah.
Right? Like how much, we have within the culture, like we have some people telling us like you just gotta man up, take it out, your like suppress it, use it as anger and like motivation and all that stuff, and just be a masculine man about it, like take it take it on the chin. And there might be some goodness in that, but is that exactly how we're supposed to do it? And then you have the other side say, well, no, don't be like Matt, there's the word toxic masculinity, right? Which sometimes can just mean you're overdoing your masculinity in an unhealthy way. Or some people think like, no, you don't need any masculinity at all. And you can totally just cry about it and, just be sad and all this stuff and do these things. And so it's like, where can we find a middle ground where we're able to function in life, move forward, but express our emotions as men in a way that's, not like feeling bad for ourselves for a long period of time and letting it take over and falling into depression, but breathing healthily in a way that, like you said, knowing that someone you love dearly is no longer in your life.
Yeah.
And so I want to ask you something, Jacob, if that's cool.
Yeah.
I have some questions here just about this topic. Actually, let me ask you this question because I just kind of alluded to it. But like in your experience, we're both guys, we're related, we've had similar experiences. Like, why do you think so many guys suppress their emotions after a breakup? And how have you seen that affect the healing in your life?
That's a tough one.
That is a tough one. We're getting deep, baby.
Why do so many guys suppress their emotions? Because I think it's just because of like the societal standard. Guys aren't supposed to cry. Guys aren't supposed to, this, that, the third. Which, to an extent, like, I do believe, like, not that you're not supposed to cry, but you are supposed to be strong in the face of those moments. God created men and women differently. Like, men and women are different. We aren't supposed to grieve the same. We aren't supposed to be the same. Like, for whatever reason, I've been seeing a bunch of clips about, WNBA stars or, female college basketball stars saying they can beat NBA players in one-on-one. I'm like, that is just absolutely ridiculous.
They could beat me though. I'm gonna just say it. They'll beat me.
They could, yeah, and they'll beat me too. Like, I'm not trying to act hard.
Yeah,
they'll beat me too.
Yeah.
But like, you're not beating anybody in the NBA. Like, I saw this high school girl. She was 16 years old, saying she would beat Anthony Edwards one-on-one if she got the ball first.
I just want to see it. I mean, I'm not going to say they can't, but I want to see you do it.
I'll say they can't because
I will put my money on Anthony Edwards.
One of the players that the United States women's soccer team won the gold medal, they lost to a high school boys team.
Yeah.
Like, it's just men and women are different. I'm not
Sure
going
they
to,
are.
you know,
No, they're
I'm not gonna
different.
be like, you know, men are stronger than women.
It doesn't take
Women
away
are
from
stronger than men
value.
in certain aspects, and
You
men
can
are
say they're
stronger than
different.
women in other aspects.
Of course.
But we are different. We do grieve in a different way. And then what about me grieving?
Yeah, I mean, like, what, like, have you suppressed in the past? Like, have you suppressed it, and has it affected your healing? Do you feel like you ever fell into the narrative of like, oh, I'm a man, I gotta be strong the whole time, like, no tears, like, just like, kind of like almost like a screw you mentality where you just like, you don't even acknowledge it, you just suppress it. Have you ever done that?
When I was younger, I used to be the opposite. I used to just let it out, and like anytime, any place, anywhere. If I was feeling it, I was gonna let it out.
Yeah.
And now that I've gotten older, I definitely don't want to cry in front of people. Like, I noticed myself when I start to feel that emotion of like sadness or like, you know, like I'm gonna start crying, like I will suppress it if I'm in public, if I'm around people. If I'm just in my room, like, nah, I'll let it out. And there'll be times where I'll pray and be like, God, please just like let me cry right now. Like, let me get this emotion out of me. But if if I'm in public, like, I will not. Like, it is suppressed. I'm tucking it deep down. And, you know, I feel like a lot of people at my work right now think like, you know, Hobby's a dickhead, but just got stuff going on, man. That's it. You just got stuff going on. Don't really want to talk about it in public because, you know, again, I don't want to have to face those emotions in public. And honestly, like, I will say, there are few people that I will even allow myself to face those emotions with. You are one of them. Like, I find myself very open and honest and vulnerable with you, but there's not many people that I am open and honest and vulnerable with. But just like a little side bit of that, like even in the past when I have like suppressed my emotions from a breakup or, you know, from different things, it is, or no, done the opposite. When I have not suppressed my emotions and not, you know, like just let myself feel all this stuff and not tried to like tough it out at all, it has sort of led me down this path of self destruction over and over and over again. Bible study was great this weekend, man. Honestly, we only read like 4 chapters and just
That's a lot. 4 chapters or 4 verses?
chapters. Chapters are not that big.
I mean, it depends what book. What book were you reading?
Matthew.
I mean,
We skipped one because it's just like the lineage.
Right. Keep going.
We read some of 2, read some of 3, and then in 4, when Jesus is tempted by Satan, that's when we kind of started to like really share how beautiful that story is. And I shared some of my testimony, Brad shared some of his testimony, and then we kind of just continued sharing testimony over and over again. So I know he's gonna watch this. I know my other buddy that was there is gonna watch this. So this is gonna be a little bit of rinse and repeat from what we had on Saturday.
Low key, kind of long.
That's not that long.
It's a little long, man.
It's not that long.
I gotta take my Adderall. We got to read all that.
So it's gonna be a little rinse and repeat from that, boys. So just keep watching. But I'll just, you know, openly share my story. I lost my virginity when I was 13 years old, and from the time I was
oh, my bad. No, that's not what I was supposed to do. Shoot.
From the time I was 13, pretty much up until now, like there has not been a the longest stint of my life where I went without having sex was probably about 6 months. And then it was probably about another 6 to 8 months before I did again. And then it was probably about another 2 months. And then I got in a relationship and it was all the time. And then from that relationship, I was single for about 3 months and then got into another relationship. And then from that relationship, I was only really, like, I was single for about a year, but it was only about like a 4 month period in between hooking up with one chick and then getting into this most recent relationship. Mm-hmm. So for the past 13 years of my life, there's probably only been about a year and a half to 2 years, not in a row. Like, you know, not like, oh, 2 years, I haven't had sex for 2 years. It was like adding all the time together is probably about a year and a half to 2 years. And there's going to be a lot of people watching this that don't think that's a bad thing, that don't think, you know,
some of them think you're bragging.
Yeah, some of them are like, bro, dude, you make that cool, bro. I'm not trying to sound cool. Honestly, to me, like, if I could go back and change that, I wouldn't, because I know God put me through these trials to turn me into the man that I am today. Another thing that was big on Bible study on Saturday was God's favorite people are broken. Like, David was a king and a warlord and an adulterer. Peter had a temper. Paul was, you know, a murderer. Like, God's favorite people are the broken, because that shows his glory. It shows how he can redeem those people.
Right. OJ.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, sure. It shows how he can redeem those people. And like I had to make those mistakes as a young kid in order to recognize like how unimportant like sex is, and how it's it's taken me 13 years to be able to admit to myself that it is the biggest idol I have in my life. Like I used to think it was money and fame, and there was a period of time when I was really into sneakers. There's a period of time in my life that I'm honestly still getting over now where I was really into smoking weed, and it showed me that not one of those things was as big of an idol to me as sex has always been in my life. And I just pray that, God can continue to help me, to stay celibate, stay sober, you know, take all these idols down out of my life. And for anyone listening, like I'm not, if you do smoke, like I'm not saying that's the worst thing in the world. If you do drink, it's not the worst thing in the world. Jesus drank wine with his disciples, and he lived a sinless life. So literally according to scripture, drinking in itself cannot be sinful. It's what we do after that. It's how much we do of it. It's how dependent we become on it that makes it sinful. So I don't necessarily think that, those things are sinful. I do, however, think sex outside of marriage is sinful. And that is just because of scripture. Like 2 years ago, we had gone through two breakups, me and this past relationship. When we broke up the first time, I really kind of decided I was going to get back into, my faith. There's a brief period in my life, probably 2, 3 years, maybe longer than that, where I didn't call myself a Christian anymore. I remember telling you about it, and you were like, "Man, that really breaks my heart." He was like, "You told me you are still a Christian. Like your belief in Jesus is, all that you need." And I would say I wasn't, because I wasn't even slightly living a life that was fruitful in any way, that was slightly going to make somebody that didn't know that, like, if I didn't tell you I was a believer in Jesus, there was no way you were going to know based on the life that I was living. And it took, all these different things happening in my life. It took, that first initial breakup for me to be like, listen, this has to be a change that I have to make. Like, I started reading the Bible, which is something I had never done before. Like, went to youth group for probably 2 years, and like even in that time, like I had never picked up my Bible and just read it on my own. Like, if I did any reading in the Bible, it was because we did it at youth group, and I didn't even go to church on Sundays back in those times either. It was literally just youth group, and I honestly wouldn't even bring a Bible to youth group because he would just put the scripture on the screen. But then I started reading the Bible, and learning the scripture for myself, not based on what my youth pastor said, not based on what you would say, not based on what anybody would tell me about the scripture, just reading it myself and understanding it and learning it. And I remember when I first started reading it, I was looking for all these different ways that having sex outside of marriage was okay. I was looking for the passage that was going to say, you know what, it is okay in this context. It is okay in this context. And I've read a lot of the Bible. I haven't read the entire thing, but I am proud of how much of it I have read and how much of it I can talk about. Um, and I'm gonna tell you, man, like it's not in there. It's not in there at all. The thing that is in there the most is that sex is a covenant that's supposed to be shared between a man and his wife. And Paul says a lot that it is easier to be a follower of Christ being single than it is to be in a relationship. But there are some of us out there who just can't handle a life of singleness. Like you are going to fall into those ways of sin, or you just do really want a partner, you do really want a family. And fortunately, I think that's the case for me. Like, I think family can be a very blessed thing. Like, we're family, and it's been one of the biggest blessings that I've ever received in life is, having you as a brother. And, you always kind of just trying to guide me back to Christ and the cross. And it's been very beneficial for me. But all that time, through all the things that I've went through, I really like started reading the Bible, one, to help me, and then once the relationship got back, I continued reading the Bible to look for a loophole, and it is not there. So anybody out there that feels like you should go and having sex willy nilly, say you're in a relationship, a long term relationship, and you think that it's just the next step that you take, even if you're engaged, like I really encourage you guys to not. And honestly, like the thing that I've realized the most is like, sure, like, you know, smoking weed too much can be sinful, drinking too much can be sinful, but like, I went out with my friends this weekend. It was probably the most drunk I've been in a very long time, and I still got up for church the next morning. You know, I've smoked a lot of weed in my life and was still getting up for church for like the last 4 months, even though I just stopped recently. The thing that has always, without a even slight breath of, you know, not the thing that has always led me away from the cross has been sex. Anytime I start having sex again, I stop going to church. And like, there was that one fling that I told you about that I had. Stopped going to church instantly. Like, as soon as me and that girl talked, and it was only for like a week, didn't go to church either of those 2 weeks. And then, you know, there's been times where I've smoked and then watched some videos and like, wow, I actually understand some scripture better. I understand things a little better. So it's like, I have really fallen in love with this idea that sin is anything that leads you away from the cross.
Mm.
And I think that if that's your guideline, if that's how you kind of measure what sin is and what sin isn't, it makes things a lot easier and a lot less complicated. Because, like I'm saying, like, you know, there's been these things that I've thought are very sinful, where people who aren't of faith are telling me I shouldn't be doing, but I'm like, it goes back to that thing. Well, if there is no God, if there is no the higher power, who are you to tell me what I can and can't be doing? The thing that has consistently led me away from the cross in my life is this idolatry of sex. And yeah, it's been a big demon of mine my entire life.
If I can just say something, I found something actually. Tim Keller, I just love Tim Keller, so I like to quote him a lot. But based off what you just said, I really like how you define sin, anything that leads you away from the cross, because it reminds me of something Tim Keller says in his book, The Reason for God. But let me just read this real quick from this article. So it says, Tim Keller, rest in peace, defines sin not just as breaking God's rules, but as making anything, even good things, into ultimate things. So he describes sin as building your identity on something other than God, which would lead you away from the cross, right? So meaning we replace God with idols like success, relationships, approval, or control. And so in his book, The Reason for God, here's an exact quote. He says, sin isn't only doing bad things. It is more fundamentally making good things into ultimate things. It's building your life and meaning on anything, even a very good thing, more than on God. So whatever we build in our life, whatever we build our life on will drive us and enslave us. Sin is primarily idolatry. So it's really interesting how you put that. It's almost like, because people will say, right? I hear people in church, outside of church, all this stuff, and be like, God made it, so it's good. I'm cool. I can do it. And it's true. God made it, so it's good. But you can take good things
and turn them into bad things
and make them idols in your life. Good things can lead you away from the cross. Because you said something earlier. You said that sex is not important, which I know what you're saying. It's not like the ultimate thing, right?
Yeah.
And because it is obviously very important in a marriage, right? But when it becomes that ultimate thing, so it's a good thing, it becomes the ultimate thing, and it leads you away from the cross. Weed, marijuana does obviously, it's made by God, right? It's an herb, it's a plant. There are things we can extract from that plant that can be great for the human body, right? For health, like all these different reasons. But that can also be taken and used and abused and become an idol.
Yeah.
Same with alcohol. Like all these things are actually good things. And I think that's where a lot of confusion comes in. Some people that are really extremely conservative, like in very like conservative evangelical fundamental churches, will say, don't even drink alcohol.
Yeah.
We know some people who we love very much that will say you shouldn't even have alcohol in your house.
Yeah.
And while if that might be true for them, if they feel it's a strong urge or that they can't handle it properly. For some people, you shouldn't have alcohol in your house.
Right.
If you have an addictive personality or you have a history with alcoholism, and I'm not saying getting drunk here and there, when you're sad, going to the bar a couple times or like having a few slip ups. I'm talking if you are an alcoholic or have been an alcoholic, you should not have alcohol anywhere near you. It's just you've proven to yourself. But if you learn to pace yourself and it's more of a circumstantial, like I'm depressed, then you're depressed and sad that's when you stay away from alcohol.
Mhm.
I know my limits personally. I know that alcohol can be a gift and a beautiful thing at a wedding, at a party, at a ceremony, and I know when to stop.
Yeah.
But sometimes when I get to that point, depending on where I'm at, I might not want to stop.
Right.
And when you can balance that, then I guess I have an appointment. That was my calendar. That's crazy. So, but when you can balance that, that's when the Spirit is convicting you, and you've been inviting God into your life. I think to recognize these are good things. Lord, to help me see my limits.
Yeah.
Help me see where this is becoming an ultimate thing.
Yeah. And honestly, that sentence right there is a beautiful thing, because I've never thought about, asking him for that. Like asking him, like, hey, show me where my limit is. Show me, where this being good stops.
Yeah.
It's something that I've always tried to leave up to myself and leave up to my own discretion, which is probably the worst thing you can do. Like, we were going to soccer a couple weeks ago. The three of us that that started this Bible study. And two of us, go to church, we're in our Bibles, and then one of us is a believer, but he's not really involved in church or scripture or anything along those lines. And, I was asking him, because he's been very inspirational for me in, stopping the weed smoking. Like he's not necessarily a little hoochie out there, trying to pick up girls every weekend, but he has always been a smoker. And I was asking him, because I also made a comment about a girl one time, and he said something to me. He was like, "Nah, bro, I'm not trying to do that anymore." And so I asked him. I was like, "What's with this life change? Like, I know that you claim to be a Christian, but like you don't really go to church and all this stuff. So like, it's not like the church or the word has been transforming you. Like, what's with this life change?" And he was like, "I just want to be a good person, like I just want to be better, and I just kind of want to do it on my own." And me and my other buddy both like instantly went, "Nah, dude, that's not the right answer, man. That's not the way." Because you really can't do it on your own. Like no matter how hard you try to do it on your own, you're always gonna slide. And it might not be, in a week. It might not be tomorrow. It might not be next year. But at some point, you are gonna slide if it's not dependent on the Lord's help. Like you have to ask Him for help in all of these battles that you go through in life, and just hope that He's gracious enough to help you.
That's good. And real quick, I just want to go back to how we got into this, right? And so we were talking about how we can suppress our emotion in a breakup,
Yeah.
how it can kind of lead us to bad things, right? If we're not careful on how we healthily process that. And so, but that being said, initially in a breakup, you're angry, right? You have all these feelings and emotions, and sometimes that anger, it can be channeled and used for good things, like bettering your physical health in the gym. I think like starting a podcast, dude. Yeah, exactly. But like, what are some ways? And if that's okay, I'll answer this question first, and then I'll have you speak on it, even though I'm asking myself a question, just because like I'm curious to hear the difference in our responses or if it's similar.
Okay.
But it's like, we talk about some unhealthy mechanisms we men fall into, right? But like, what are some ways that men can grieve these breakups in a way that is both healthy without falling into these things we're talking about, but also not crying ourselves into a cave where it consumes us and depresses us for so long? Because personally, I know I've been on both extremes of that, right? And when you mentioned something earlier, it's like, it's so funny. I mean, that's how I know we're brothers, because I used to not be able to function at all if I had like a breakup and I wasn't the person doing the breaking up. It's easy. It's not easy. I mean, when you're the one doing the breaking up, it's hard, but in a different way, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to end that. You don't want to hurt someone.
Yeah.
You actually still care about them. So it's like, how do I do this in a way that this girl knows that I do respect her and care about her, but at the same time, you got to cut it off, because you don't want, like, out of respect for them, you don't want to lead them on. And I made so many mistakes leading girls on because I couldn't be a man and make the breakup. But on the other side, when you are broken up with and you don't want to be, like, I have gone to places where for a long time, months, years even, where I cannot get over this breakup because I don't know how to grieve these emotions. And as I grow, I realize it's not just that relationship. There's a lot of things that are coming undone that I haven't worked through, right?
Yeah.
But in my experience, now that I'm 28, which is not super old, obviously, but compared to where I was at 18, in the last 10 years, I think I know, you talked about not wanting to cry in public, not wanting to do these things. I think that's actually smart of you, man, because look, not everyone needs to know what we're going through. Not everyone needs to see what we're going through. I mean, we're doing a podcast, so people are gonna, now everyone that wants to know can kind of find out a little bit.
That's the beautiful
in
thing.
a good way.
It's like they have to want.
They have to want to, yeah. So, but you got a few homies, like a few dudes that you can just go to, be real with, and in a space where it's like your circles are tight, who you can trust with emotion. That's why you even said I'm one of the people you'll be vulnerable with. You said I'm one of the people.
So I'll be honest, like you're probably the only one.
Yeah.
That I can really like be vulnerable with and just speak my mind and be like, F this B and all this stuff. Like,
look at that censoring, dude. We're keeping this clean. The whole family can watch this.
Like you are probably the only one. Like even with them, I'll notice myself like censoring myself or not really saying how I'm really feeling inside. So like it is difficult, and I'll be honest, I don't have a good answer for like how do you process the grief and how do you be better about grieving, because like I've never been good at it. Like I've always the red pill community calls it serial monogamous. I've been a serial monogamous my entire life. Like I go from relationship to relationship, and I was saying that thing about patterns earlier. Like I'm guilty of that same type of thing. I'm just as guilty as the other party in that same type of thing of I'm grieving. This sucks. This hurts. Let me just find somebody new so I can forget about this pain and start experiencing new love.
When you say red pill, you mean birth control?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you not know red
No,
pill?
I do. I just wanted to say that. I'm gonna make some jokes at terrible times, guys.
But yeah, so I've always been like a serial monogamous. I've always kind of the way that I have processed breakups and gotten over breakups is by finding a new relationship to focus on. And that is incredibly unhealthy. Like that's the most unhealthy habit I've ever had in my entire life, which is why I kind of brought up the whole idolizing sex thing and going from, having it all this time and whatnot, is because I just went from relationship to relationship knowing that, hey, I'm going to get to have sex at some point. And it's been incredibly unhealthy for me. Like, I've never dated a Christian girl. Like the number one thing that like makes me compatible with a woman, I have always chosen a woman that I know we don't have that number one thing in line together. So like I know this is probably not gonna work out. Like some people call it missionary dating, and it there are times when it's worked for certain people where one person isn't a follower and one person is a follower, and they lead that non-follower to Christ. But it should never be the goal, and it should. Yeah, I don't know. I'll never try it again. To be honest, I'll never try it again. But that's why my grieving process has never been healthy. I'm not good at it, and I'm just starting to learn that it's a lot harder when you don't fall into that same pattern over and over again.
Yeah, I do think it's important, to have, people. To have some community that can help you with that is good, and so I appreciate you sharing that you'll be vulnerable with me, and just know, man, like you can be vulnerable with me, and like next time you cry in front of me, I'll call you a little bitch, and then you won't be comfortable anymore. Then you'll have to man up, and then you can suppress that because men don't cry, baby. We don't need that. We get angry, we lift weights, we get big, and then we ruin our hip and have to get surgery. All right, yeah, dude. So,
getting hit with the ropes, man.
Yeah, exactly. I do got to get on the ropes. By the way, he's talking about like workout ropes. Like I'm not a wrestler. He's trying to hang me, dude. He's trying to noose me.
Another thing I did want to talk about is like you saying, you always like being the person that breaks up. I have been the opposite.
I don't like either of it, actually. I didn't say.
I don't
like either
person that ends a relationship, because then I just start questioning myself. Like, man, was that the right decision? Should I really have done that? And like, it has always been harder for me being the person that does the breaking up than being the person that gets broken up with.
Sure. I think for me, it's not that I like it better. I don't like either of it. I hate both of it. But I think it's just like, and you're actually, one is not better than the other, actually, because it's like different ways. There was this one girl, amazing girl, great girl. And honestly, like I could have seen us being together for a long time.
The Jehovah's Witness.
Wow. And
was that right?
Yeah. And this girl, she was a great girl, and really liked her, really cool, and we clicked on in a lot of ways. And I was 24 or 23 maybe.
That's great.
I was like, I've been a Christian my whole life, but like, I wasn't very biblically literate in the way that I am now. Not that I'm great now. I dropped out of seminary; it's too hard, but Greek is also, by the way, real quick, Hebrew. Come on, dude. You're reading from right to left.
Idiots.
Actually, I don't even know if that's true. That's how bad I was at Hebrew. That's how bad I was at Hebrew. I was like, is it this or yeah? But also Hebrew has no vowels, so I can't talk like so. It's like very in the throat. It's like
Yeah.
and I have a big uvula, so it hurts.
You know what they say about big U?
That's right.
I don't know.
I don't either, man.
But anyway, you're saying
Can't speak Hebrew.
there was this one girl.
Yeah, and then I found out, like, you know, she was talking about, like, she heard I went to church and I was religious and everything, and she liked that. And then I heard, like, she was a Christian and everything. And I was like, oh, sweet, dude. There's a Christian girl that I work with. It was a part-time job, so it wasn't against, like, HR violation. With my lawyers out there. But yeah, man. So we went on a few dates, and like she talked about her church, I talked about my church, and I was like, oh, great. She's like, yeah, I love Jesus. I'm like, I love Jesus too. Let's do this.
Hell yeah.
And then a couple months go by, and I guess I should have started off with, what church do you go to? Because one day I saw her standing on a corner in downtown Indianapolis, and I was like, "What's going on?" I won't say her name, but what's going on, girl number one? That's what I was answering. Yo, girl number one, what's on? What are you doing out here? She's like, I'm out here preaching the good news. I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Let me join you guys. You guys are from church? And then the lady looks at me. She's like, yeah, we go to the same temp or kingdom hall or something. I was like, well, that's a cool name for church. I'm gonna start saying that. And then then they're talking about like they start talking to me and they're like, only 100,000 people go to heaven. And I was like,
wait, what?
hold on, what's going on? And I was like, what's happening right now? And then I looked at the pamphlet that she had, and I was like, oh, it says jw.org. And so anyway, so that was, I figured it out, and then I was like, wait, let me see, maybe this will work. But listen, they're great people. Jehovah's Witnesses are very nice, but at the end of the day, they fundamentally believe something different than I do about who Jesus Christ is.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't want her dating me, like her church, if they found out, or whatever they call it, Kingdom Hall. And you know, my church would make it clear that, you know, it wouldn't be wise for me to date her. And it's not from a control standpoint. It's like, if you don't believe that your God is the same God and you're going to raise a family together, you know, it just doesn't make sense. It's not personal. It's not that, it doesn't mean that it's a bad person, but
whose God are you going to teach the kids to?
exactly. So it's like you can have religious standards in a relationship, and you should. And the culture might say, "Oh, that's intolerant." Well, you're allowed to make your standard for whatever you think your standard is, right?
Yeah.
Within reason.
Yeah.
And that's something that's very thoughtful and careful. So I had to end that relationship, and it was very hard because we
Yeah.
both really liked each other. And I knew like we both kept trying to justify it, but we both knew like this wasn't going to work for either of our sides.
Yeah.
And I was the one that cut it off, and it hurt really bad, and it was very hard because she would reach out to me, and I would like I knew I couldn't help her, but anytime I would respond, it would make things harder or worse. So I eventually had to just be cold blooded and cut her off because I knew it was best for both of us. And so that's terrible. Like cutting that off because you care about someone, and people don't think that. So then I have to put myself in her shoes when I'm on the other side of it, and someone breaks up with me because they know we're not compatible, and I take it out on myself. But it's actually, you know, maybe they're doing the right thing for both of us, and it actually is coming from a place of love and care.
Yeah.
And it's hard to ever get to that point. It's going to take some time. You're going to be angry at first, then you're going to be like, you know, actually I'm doing better. Then you're going to have moments where it comes up and hits you. And that's why I've said this to you, and I've said to all my friends, the scar analogy. You know, I have scars all over my body from these surgeries I've had to get. And when I first get the wound, right, when I first have the stitches, it hurts like hell, like so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, it gets better. But it's not the time that heals the wound, right? They say time heals all wounds. No, it's what you do with the time. Because if I didn't do anything to that wound, it would get infected and actually get worse.
Right, yeah.
But I apply the ointment every day. I take it easy. I take it really careful. I'm aware of what my limits are, what I can do, what I can't do. I know I can't play basketball when I have a stitch, you know, right here on my arm. I know I can't lift weights, so I wait. So if my heart's hurting and my heart's in pain and there's a fresh wound, I know I'm not going to go drink or party or anything like that. That could lead me to infecting that wound, right? And so, but over time, the scar heals. and you feel better. And it's like, oh wow, I remember when I was in so much pain and I applied it, I took care of it, I was healthy about it, I was reasonable, I was patient, and now it's healed.
Yeah.
But you can still see it a little bit.
Right.
Because it's still a part of me.
Yeah.
Who I am and my story. And every once in a while it kind of hurts. Every once in a while. Because it's still a scar.
Yeah.
So if the sun hits it right, there's still a little bit of pain. But overall it's fine. It's just that moment. So I feel like with relationships, they're gonna be wounds, they're gonna be scars that either heal or don't heal, depending on how we treat them. But a scar is always going to be a part of us. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So I think as men, being open with one another, having some people we can trust and be vulnerable with, and recognizing that it's not linear. The scar will be a part of us, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. Like, you're spot on.
Wow.
I mean, like you've said that to me before, but like, it's like really resonated this time. Like, and I think, you know, like in my past, like I wasn't putting ointment on the scar. Like I wasn't like I would put the ointment on for a day and be like, it's all right. You know, and then I go lift again. And I put the ointment on for a day and be like, I can go play basketball. Who cares? You know?
Right.
When I should have just been like, you know what? Let me take it easy. Let me just take a break from my normal routine. Let me take a break from what I usually do.
Right.
And just let this thing heal up for a bit. Which is, you know, what I need to do now and what I'm going to do this time. And I always kind of like knew, like I said it for a long time, like if anything had happened with that relationship, I wasn't going to fall into that same pattern. And, you know, hopefully I continue to not fall into the pattern, but I always kind of knew, like, it's time to stop repeating this cycle. It's time, like, if this doesn't work out, like, it's time to no longer keep doing the same thing because it's not working. Like you've tried it over and over again. Like you've tried to, you know, lead all these girls to God. You tried to lead some of your friends to God, and it's not working. Like you need to come up with a different method. Yeah. And honestly, like I was saying earlier with my one buddy, you know, telling me like, oh, I don't want to talk about girls like that anymore. He's always been a degenerate. Like he's always been, you know, somebody that I could, you know, talk about girls with. You know, we could smoke weed together. Yeah, this, that, and the other. And now it's like he's sort of the opposite, sort of for different reasons, but it's starting to be for that reason. Like he did go to church with me this weekend, but the other buddy, like other than you, he has been somebody that has like helped lead me to the cross more than anybody else in my life. Mm-hmm. And never one single time has he ever tried to like preach the gospel to me. Mm-hmm. Or try to tell me like what I'm doing is wrong, or try to tell me like I should be living my life a different way. And you know, it could be because we've gotten closer as, you know, time in that relationship got coming to an end. Right. But like the way that he's helped lead me back to the cross is that he lives a very Christ-like life. Like he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't cuss, he doesn't, you know, see women. Like he's been in one relationship the entire time I knew him, and it was a very non-sexual relationship. Like they kissed, but that was it. Like they didn't, you know, even attempt anything more than that. And just seeing him live the life the way that he lives it has, you know, helped lead me to the cross. And like you hear people say it over and over again, like the best way you can lead is by example. Mm-hmm. And like it was like seeing him live life the way that he does for the reasoning that he does, that like really helped to teach me that lesson is true. Like it doesn't matter what I say to people, it doesn't matter, you know, those things aren't as important as the example that I lead by. Right. And it's more important the life that I live and the fruits that it produces, rather than, you know, me trying to say this is the truth, this is, you know, how the world is, this is, you know, what everybody should believe. Mm-hmm. When I could just show that it is, you know, the truth, and that is how people should live and everything like that. Yeah. Amen. Well, let's see. We've been going for, 54 minutes. So that's okay. We got a lot of good stuff. It's pretty good. Yeah. Well, let's do this, man. Why don't we end real quick? We talked a lot about breakups, talked a lot about grief. This was a good, you know, we're just trying things out. We're trying to see what works. You know, I feel like this went somewhere. But on the topic of breakups, why don't we end this on a little lighter note? All right. And I have 20 rapid fire questions to end our podcast, breakup related. Luka and the Mavs breakup. And that too. Yeah, we could do that. So let's do this. I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to give you
You're gonna have 60 seconds, okay? And you have to answer this question as fast as possible. So
Just this question,
I'm
or
gonna
like
all these questions. Let's see how many questions you can get through. And if you can, I have 20 questions pulled up here. Rapid fire.
I already like this. I think we should do this every.
Yeah, this is great. We got to do a rapid fire question. Look at our first segment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our first segment on the Half Brothers podcast. This is the rapid fire questions that we're going to do every time we want. Okay, good. And then here's the music for it. We'll add some music.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the editing process is going to be amazing. So, 20 questions, rapid fire. The clock starts now.
I'm not putting any music in.
Would you rather date someone who claps when the plane lands or someone who texts haha after every sentence?
Haha, for sure.
If breakups had exit interviews, what's the one question you'd ask your ex?
How was I?
What's the pettiest reason you ever stopped talking to someone?
Their arms were hairy.
Oh, would you rather have your ex's name tattooed on your forehead or run into them every day for a year?
Oh,
Come on.
run into them every day for a year.
What's the worst breakup song to listen to while trying to move on?
Ooh. I don't know. Something like talks about I still love you.
If your last relationship was a movie, what would the title be?
Skip that one.
What was the most awkward thing you've ever said on a first date?
Skip that one.
Would you rather get ghosted or have your ex write a detailed PowerPoint on why it didn't work out?
Ghosted.
What's the most ridiculous breakup excuse you've ever heard? And we're out of time. I want to hear your answer though. What's the most ridiculous breakup excuse you've ever heard?
I'm just too busy.
Okay.
Because that girl then went and got in a relationship.
Amazing.
Like 2 months later. This was not one of mine. I actually don't like this girl because of this. And it happened within the last year.
I see.
But yeah, she told one of my friends that she was just too busy. She had too much going on, and she was in another relationship within like 2 months.
That's great.
But now she's not in that relationship either.
You want to hear the most ridiculous breakup excuse I've ever heard?
Yeah.
So I was dating this girl, and she was a church girl. We were dating, right? Love each other, all this stuff, good time. And she broke up with me, and the reason was God told her to break up with me. Yeah, so he might have told her. But it's interesting because a few weeks later, I was scrolling on her Instagram and saw her recent post, and it turns out God told her to date one of my other buddies from high school, actually. So, yeah, that's one of the first jokes I ever wrote, and it's also true. So I got to use that on our first podcast.
All right, you want to get the timer going and then show me where you left? Do you want me to just give you the same questions you gave me?
Oh, I was just going to ask you, but you want to ask me now?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we generate new questions, and we can edit this part out. Generate 20 new questions.
So as far as the editing goes, you want me to cut all the dead space?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, whatever you feel is right. Like this just now, me setting this up, you can cut this out.
Okay.
But yeah, whatever you think.
I probably won't.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Just to show people.
All right. Great. I'm not using ChatGPT for this. Okay. Cool. All right. So you'll just it's on that tab. So you just redo that and hit play.
Okay.
And then you go to the other tab and ask me. All right. Here we go. All right. I had hip surgery. That's why my hips up.
Dude, this is so much nicer than mine.
Oh yeah.
The computer. So.
Yep. That's the company laptop.
Right.
I mean, it's personal laptop actually. So.
Ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. If you had to give your ex an Yelp review, what would it say?
Cool. It would be 2.5 stars. Always.
What's worse, accidentally liking their old Instagram posts or texting them happy birthday when it's not their birthday?
The Instagram thing is weird because you're scrolling on their stuff. Yeah.
If your love life was a fast food restaurant, which one would it be and why?
Man.
McDonald's, quick and easy, baby.
That's skip. I'll come back to that.
Would you rather have your pastor accidentally read your DMs out loud or have your mom analyze your last breakup?
I'll let my mom analyze it.
Yeah, for sure.
She's chill.
If your last breakup had theme music, what song would play?
I think it would be the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme song.
Okay.
It's like a clown song. Who
heals faster after a breakup, men or women? Defend your answer.
Pass.
Damn. What was the worst we need to talk text someone could send?
I made an offensive joke once in front of someone's family. Yeah.
If your ex had to describe you in 3 words, what do you think they'd say?
He is straight. That's why it's fast. It's like,
What's the cringiest moving on phase you've ever gone through?
I think I started listening to like a lot of metal music for a couple weeks, and I don't like metal.
All right, last one. Would you rather your ex send you a long emotional apology or just Venmo you $500?
Oh, I'll take the money.
Yeah,
Sure. That's easy.
For
That's an
sure.
apology enough. $500?
Yes.
Dude,
I might have read that one wrong, but
that's a couple pairs of sneakers. That's like, all right, hey, you're clearly sorry.
yeah.
If you just spend on me
Like,
$500,
I've been looking at getting this new squat rack that's got a bunch of like different attachments and like it's got a pulley system on it. It's $400 on Amazon. For real? It's that
yeah,
spot.
exactly, yeah. For $500, dude, what could I get? I could get bro, I could take like 5 more women out on a really fancy date. You know,
Not-
with not New York. That's true. Yeah, no, I mean fancy for me though is like Chipotle instead of like Taco Bell.
Oh, no, you're straight. You're straight.
I want it. I am straight. Thank you. Thanks. A lot of people don't think so, but so I wanted to wait. Hold on. The question about fast food though. What was the question again? What would your love life? If your love life was a fast food restaurant,
Which one would it be and why?
Bro, I'm trying to think of a creative one. Let's see. Because there's so many options. But I would say in New York, there's a place called Dig, and I think I call it
It's fast
Dig.
food?
Yeah, it's like a fast food chain kind of.
Okay.
I guess it's a step up from fast food, but the reason it'd be Dig is because like I'm always digging myself into a hole in these relationships.
Hey, bars!
All right. Well, should we wrap up?
Yeah, let's wrap up.
All right. Well, guys, this has been great. Jacob, any last words? Any plugs? Any new shows coming up? Books coming out?
Writing a book. I did start the show. Just kidding. But I am gonna start posting on Instagram again. So any of you who want to get a little bit more fit, want to get a little bit more healthy, want to be able to play sports, you want to be able to play with your kids, go ahead and follow me on Instagram. It is @_Hoppy Hops. HOPPY HOPS. I'm also going to be posting stuff for the podcast on there. We will eventually make an Instagram page for it and TikTok and all that fun stuff. But go ahead and follow me there. I'll help you get fit. I'll help you be able to play with your kids and not have to get hip surgeries like this old man.
Yeah, that's right. I also have a plug real quick. There was a show on ABC in like 2009 called Life on Mars that got canceled after 1 season in 2009. Jason O'Mara played Detective Tyler, Sam Tyler. It's where he got hit by a car and woke up in 1973. ABC, we want season 2. It's been 16 years. Also, guys, you can follow me at Glenn Tyler TV on YouTube and TikTok. I'll be posting some sketch comedy coming up this year if I get around to it. And sketches and
Skits?
You know, in the comedy world, man, in New York, you just got to start posting your solo sketches. And I've been too scared to do that. But after my Joe Biden impression went viral on TikTok, 1.6 million views, you know, I think I'm going to have to ride that wave. So we'll see. I haven't gotten a penny for that. But Glenn Tyler TV, YouTube, and TikTok, and I'll put some show dates on there or on the screen right now if I have any shows coming up. I don't right now in New York for stand-up. But yeah, we love you guys. God bless you. And thanks to the friends listening to this right now.
Appreciate you guys. Come back next week for episode 2. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you later.